Good afternoon. Welcome back to another episode of the LOTR LCG Progression Series. Playing solo as always, and today's quest is Blood In The Isen, the last quest of the Oaths of the Rohirrim cycle. Doing the commentary after the fact on this one. This isn't a very long quest. It didn't take me very long anyway. So to start, I don't need any of these extra enemies as I'm playing solo. Each player would need to choose one in multiplayer. And the objective narrow crossing will gain 3 resources every round. You can't have more cards in play than the number of resources on narrow crossing. Well, you can, but you take a threat penalty. This is another quest where I determined that you don't need to move on immediately. The way you move on from phase 1 in this quest is by clearing the West Bank location. And I decided that I didn't want to do that before building up some resources on narrow crossing. So even though I take some threat penalty from West Bank, I decide I'm not going to clear it immediately. So I quest relatively lightly because I don't have a lot of threat that I'm facing and I'm not trying to make progress on anything. Take Doomed 1 from the battleground and then I go ahead and move there. I think about moving to West Bank, but I decide I'm going to slow play it a little bit even though I take threat penalties. I think it's good to hang around in phase 1 until a few tokens have been built up on narrow crossing. This is another quest like the last one, where if you go too quickly you run into problems, and even though you take threat penalties early, I determined that it's better to stick around in phase 1 at least for a turn or two until I get maybe 9 tokens built up on narrow crossing. So I'm thinking about what I want to play, how many cards I want to play, because I don't really want to go over 6 and take additional threat. And I decide that I would like additional questing power more than I want defense. Gondorian Shield would normally be a high priority card, and I'd probably normally play Ioreth as well. But I decide not to avoid taking on additional threat from narrow crossing. So I just play the Warden and get a little healing, and now I'm going to quest a little more aggressively in order to clear the location. Deal 1 damage to each hero I control with 1 resource in its pool. That's just 1 hero. And I think noble heroes damaged that way take additional damage. But Beregond isn't noble. So that's going to clear the objective. And I think it made the current quest become a battle, which I wasn't sure what that meant exactly. So I may have decided, I decided that I was going to, it says either remove 1 resource token from the forward's objective or the current quest gains battle. So I realized retroactively that I should have, paid the resource cost last turn when I made the location active, and that would have resulted in either taking 1 more threat this round due to playing 6 cards, or I would have held off on playing the Warden of Healing and just kept the damage on the heroes. Either way, I don't think would have been a big deal. So I am thinking about what to do here, who to commit to the quest, as I want to have enough committed to the quest to clear the West Bank. No, I'm thinking I don't want to clear the West Bank, so I'm thinking about questing more precisely for 1 more turn. So we go up to 8 there, and I'm under the limit by 1. So I guess I decide I'm going to move on here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I don't move on unless I buff Treebeard, so I do that, and then I go ahead and move on to phase 2. In Phase 2, I would have to add an enemy to the staging area if I were playing solo, but I am not. I still need to shuffle the discard pile into the deck. So the enemy Grim-Reed is going to engage the first player immediately. The Dunland Chieftain will engage normally. I have to discard a card after he engages me. And I'm not going to be able to do much to Grim-Reed until the quest has 10 progress on it. So we're in defensive mode for the moment. And that says after this attack, the next player gets attacked as well. There is no next player. But Treebeard does take a little damage. Warden of Healing is a pretty important card in this quest because anytime you put resource tokens on Narrow Crossing, you have to take a damage on an undamaged character from Grim-Reed. And so you end up getting like 1 damage on a lot of different characters. Or you can reduce the number of tokens placed by 1. I may have forgotten at one point to put a damage on an undamaged character. I'm not sure, but since I have, with the amount of healing that I have, it wouldn't have mattered. So I go ahead and get out the Knight of the White Tower using Good Harvest to name leadership. That's how I'm able to spend spirit resources on it. I do a quick count on the cards that I have, pay the damage cost to Grim-Reed, and then I heal it back off with Warden of Healing. And I quest pretty hard here, trying to get the 10 progress I need in order to be able to damage Grim-Reed. This is a complicated card. I have to choose 3 different things to do. I have to discard a resource, an ally, an attachment, an enemy attachment, a location, a side quest, or a random card from hand. I only actually have 2 of those things. No, I have 3. I have to discard a random card from hand, an ally, and an attachment, which is my Gondorian shield, which I'm pretty sad about. So I decide to let the Warden of Healing go since I speculate that I'm about to kill Grim-Reed and I don't need so much healing anymore. I should have discarded my Gondorian shield as well. I may have not done that or forgotten to do it. The shadow card has no effect, so I shouldn't have dropped threat by 1 there, and Beregond should have taken 1 damage since he shouldn't have had the Gondorian shield. We'll see if that matters or not. I doubt it will. But I'll just make a note that threat should be 1 higher, and Beregond should have 1 damage. And here I go ahead and use Boomed and Trumpeted. After I put a damage on Treebeard, I can ready him for a tactics resource and give him +3 attack, and then I can go ahead and heal him with Ioreth, and then I can buff him. I'm buffing him up to, I want to buff him up to 9, so I think I need 1 more damage. I'm just calculating it right now. I guess I buff him to 10 instead. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I miscalculated there. Or maybe I'm recalculating it here. Yeah, there we go. That's 5, 6, 7, 8. So that'd be correct. Or 9. I forget how many damage I put on him before he was healed. He may have needed 1 more damage there. I'm not sure I did the math exactly right, but I don't think it's going to matter. We'll see. Little mistakes are pretty common in my games, I'd say. It's hard to eliminate all of them. After defeating Grim-Reed, I move on as there's already the proper amount of progress on the quest. And the new quest, I add Ailed Wolf to the staging area, and each other player has to do something, but there are no other players. And we flip Narrow Crossing over to Hasty Pursuit. And Hasty Pursuit basically subtracts 1 resource every round, so it decreases the number of cards you can have out safely without needing to take on threat. I go ahead and push for the progress I need on the main quest because the villain can't be engaged until the main quest has 12 progress on it. And each token that's removed from Hasty Pursuit each turn goes to Eowyn and buffs his hit points. So he gets progressively harder to defeat the longer it takes to get the quest, to get the progress on the main quest and then engage and defeat him. This quest really favors blitzing the final stage. But at the same time, you can't hang around in the early stages too much or you just go on taking threat. At some point did I figure out that Gondorian Shield needed to be discarded, or did it get discarded by something else? I'm not sure. But I guess my earlier mistake is now rectified. Oh yeah, there it was. Discard the highest cost attachment. So, the encounter deck rectified my earlier mistake, and in the end, my threat should be 1 higher and Beregond should have 1 damage. All I'm able to do that round is defend since I, quested with everyone else. But I do defend uneventfully, and Eowyn now has 2 tokens on him. 1 token is removed from Hasty Pursuit and given to him at the end of each planning phase. So the questing here was 1 short, so once again I buffed Treebeard with 1 willpower in order to get the needed points so that I can now engage Eowyn. And I'm just thinking about how I'm going to deal with all of these attacks. I do still have Eowyn's once per game, and once I defeat Eowyn, the quest is over. So really what I'm thinking about is just surviving the attacks through taking the attacks undefended, which is going to kill some champions, but I don't care as long as Éowyn and Treebeard survive. I'm going to need 16 damage on Eowyn, which I'm thinking I can do with Treebeard and Éowyn by buffing Treebeard and using Éowyn's once per game. And then all I need to do is take the other attacks either on Beregond or undefended, which will kill heroes. Or I took one on Ioreth there. I should have healed Treebeard before doing that. And I may actually undo that and heal later, I'm not sure. But in any case, Beregond takes an attack, Ioreth took an attack and died. The Dunland Chieftain is going to attack undefended, which kills Frodo. And the fleet-footed Dunlending is going to attack undefended as well, I believe on Beregond. Which leaves just Éowyn and Treebeard, and that is sufficient to kill Eowyn and end the quest. So Beregond dies as well. And now I can use Éowyn's once per game, so that 1 damage that should have been on Beregond wouldn't affect anything. He would die there in any case. So I go ahead and buff Treebeard here. It's possible at this point that Treebeard should have had 1 more damage on him if I had miscalculated the attack from last round. But I also forgot to... Well, no, I shouldn't have healed with Ioreth because that would exhaust her. I'll have to go back and look at the calculation, but I don't think I did it wrong. So it would go 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That's just enough to kill Eowyn with his 4 additional HP. And that will end the quest. So that didn't take much time at all. I will go back and check if I needed to add 1 damage to Treebeard. So I went back and looked, and I actually put too much damage on Treebeard. It should have been 1. What I should have done was buff him twice, then heal him, I'm talking about the turn where he took down Grimreed. Buffed him twice, then healed him with Ioreth, and then buffed him again for the third buff. I didn't do that correctly, and so he ended up with one more damage than he should have had. So that was a mistake that hurt me rather than helped me. So no problem. In the end, I had the amount of hit points that I needed in order to take down the final boss, and that ends the quest. Now I'm going to talk briefly about the notes that the designers included with this quest. They're over there on the side. They just include some notes about what their design philosophy was, that they were introducing cards that they hoped could compete with but not outshine the other archetypes, which I think they succeeded in very well. As I wouldn't say the new cards are particularly overpowered, but they do provide a buff to some of the existing archetypes. And the Bree archetype was expanded. Overall, I think the quest design in this series of quests was excellent. Really, really, really strong quest design. I really enjoyed all these quests, and I think they're balanced very well. And so I would encourage players to play them and print them out, even if you're not interested in printing out the player cards, which you might be interested in one particular synergy, one particular trait, or another one particular archetype, but maybe not all of them. But even if that's the case, I do encourage players to print out the quests and the encounter decks because they are exceptional and I greatly enjoyed them. And thank you so much to the Long Extended Party Players Committee for making these. And I hope that you will continue because the quests are exceptional in their design, in my opinion. In many cases superior to what FFG actually designed in terms of the mechanics, the fun, and the difficulty balance. I think especially the difficulty is very well balanced for solo play, which is something FFG always struggled with. They often made quests balanced for multiplayer, and they were almost unplayable in solo at times. But the Long Extended Party quests did not have this problem. I don't know what the difficulty was like in multiplayer, but they seemed very well balanced between being difficult but not too difficult in solo play. So, thank you for watching.